Hi, it's Christine Gritmon. I'm here with Social, the live stream show that I do every Friday at noon with a different special guest every week talking about social media. And this week's guest is Michaela Alexis. Hi. from Grade A Digital. And she, so many people, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're very active on LinkedIn, you probably know who she is. She actually, about a year ago, she was out of work, and she used LinkedIn to not only propel herself to an amazing new position very quickly, but once she was there, she just kept the momentum going. So welcome, Michaela.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how, in your words, you went from penniless to president?
Ooh, that's a long story. So in March of 2016, I was laid off from the tech startup that I was working at. And it was such a stark transition going from working 13 hours a day to all of a sudden you have nothing. Mm-hmm. And I was also at a kind of like an interesting time in my life because on top of the fact that I'd never been laid off and it had been something that was so terrifying for me for such a long time. I always had that fear of what if I get fired or what if something bad happens. So I would kind of like hop from job to job. So there was that happened. And then I was also 29. And, you know, as much as I don't want to do that, you know, we kind of have these goals set up. It's like, by this age, I'm going to have this accomplished. And so I was sitting there at 29 thinking that I was going to have the big house and perfect family and the perfect job and, you know, bags full of money. And in reality, I was sitting there not sure what I was going to do for the rest of my career and not able to pay my rent. Yeah. And so, you know, people have talked about rock bottom and how great, incredible things can happen when you're in a position where your back's against the wall. And for me, I had two choices. I could either continue kind of surviving life, or I could start creating my own path. And I chose the latter and did it particularly through LinkedIn. You know, I talked to somebody the other day and he gave me the best advice. He was like, what you do between ages 5 and 13 is what you should be doing for the rest of your life. And I was like, ooh, goosebumps, right? So during that time, I was really thinking about the things that actually take out money, take out success, take out all the expectations. What do I love to do? And it was writing and social media. And unfortunately for me, I talk too much. So if I were to share one of my thoughts on Twitter, it'd be like 800 tweets. So that wasn't going to work out. Facebook, I felt like it was kind of like a retreat for me. I wanted to go on and talk to friends and family. But then there was LinkedIn, and it was still a little bit underdeveloped at the time. You know, you saw a lot of those political memes, and it was stale. But I thought that there was a position for somebody like me to come in and start talking about things that were traditionally taboo in the business world. So talking about confidence and self-esteem and failure and career experiences. And I wrote an article in March of 2016 called How I Landed My Dream Job in 2 Weeks on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And that article ended up going viral. So what
do you think it did? What do you think struck a chord? Well, first of all, actually, just to back up, how did you go? How did you get your dream job in 2 weeks?
All through LinkedIn. So I actually posted on LinkedIn about a week after I lost my job saying, I'm looking for my dream job. This is what I bring to the table. This is what I'm looking for. If you have any ideas, let me know. Not really thinking anything of it. Again, like once you're rock bottom, you have nothing to lose. So it's like, might as well put out this thing and see what happens. And what ended up happening is that I witnessed the power of community. And instead of waiting around and trying to send out resumes and waiting for the perfect job, I was having people that were saying, what you did was really, really brave. And I'd love to just hire you. Like, can you just come in and interview? And so I ended up turning down 4 job offers in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And yeah, which it doesn't happen to me. Like usually it's, you know, months and you just kind of wait around. And I ended up landing my job with Grade A. And so when I put out that article, I think that it came with the right intentions. It wasn't ever to go viral or to take advantage of an audience. It was, I was a job seeker and I felt like I had found a new way to market yourself. And I wanted to share that with everybody that was in a similar situation as me, right? So I had such genuine intentions about that article. And of course, I'm a marketer, so I put it out, and it took me about half an hour to create. And I remember coming back and being like, "Are you kidding me? I've been in marketing for 7 years, and this thing with, ripped off memes, and that took me half an hour. This is a thing that
never choose what takes off."
Right. So I did exactly what you just asked. And I looked at it, I'm like, why did this resonate with people? And I think it was because it was relatable and it had the right intentions. And I talked about things that weren't traditional as well. It was being tactical and catering also to job seekers, because job seekers tend to be, if you're laid off, if you're fired, if you quit, you are stigmatized in society. It's like this like dirty words when you say that you're laid off. It's like, ooh, broken goods. And I came at it being like, no, like actually you have a great opportunity to find something that you really love to do. And so I think that struck a chord because I was reaching an audience that was really underserved.
Yeah. Do you follow Sri? Because this kind of reminds me of Sri too, what he did.
I don't think so.
He was the chief digital officer for the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and when his position was eliminated, instead of just kind of going to his immediate network or headhunters or kind of keeping it very quiet, he put it out there. He said, "This happened. I'm a free agent. I'm open to opportunities, and also I've got time now. Write to me. Let's take a walk through Central Park and talk social media."
Yeah.
And he got such an overwhelming response. And then he became chief digital officer for the city of New York. And then he left that. And I don't yet know what the story was there, but I'm excited because I'm actually going to get to take my walk in Central Park with him sometime soon, now that he's got that part of the list. But I mean, we're in this era now of honesty, like talking about the things people don't talk about is the ultimate, like putting that vulnerability out there makes you so trustworthy.
Yeah, I tell people when it comes to personal branding, because that's what this all is. And when I started doing this, I didn't know what it was called. I just knew that I wanted to find a different way. And now I realize, to me at this point, I look at it as career insurance. I've now created something that is so independent from where I work and what I do, because I've invested time and energy that now all I want to do is preach at every single person. I go back to my old high school twice a year and I'm telling students, I'm like, this is a major opportunity for you guys. This is the way to go. Don't wait around and send out resumes and hope for the best. Like actually go out there and get it.
Yep.
So yeah, and I tell people all the time, it's two things: confidence and competence. And we tend to think that, if you talk about things like failure, because we think of our own failures as these like terrible things that we need to hide. But then when we look at other people and they're openly talking about their failures, we see that as confidence.
Yes.
And I think that was what really started to resonate with people, that I was talking about things that were projecting this confidence that really just came from me having nothing to lose, to be honest. And then just kind of grew over time.
Now, to go back to when you got laid off, you put it out there on LinkedIn. That implies that you had built some degree of network already.
Yeah.
So you a phrase that I kind of like is you weave the net that catches you. You sort of put that together when you don't need it. So so what did your network, obviously right now your network has blown up since, but what did it look like before?
Okay, so I basically made LinkedIn my full-time job, and I made it my full-time job even before I had lost my job, just because I started to see that there was a lot of potential with the network. So I spent as much time as possible reaching out to people, just saying, I'm in Ottawa, you're in Ottawa, I really like what you're doing in marketing, whatever it is, looking for ways to connect with people. And I know that's been a strategy for a lot of people. I know Lewis Howes, like when he started, he actually got his start on LinkedIn, which most people don't realize, but he did the same thing, made it his full-time job to reach out to other people and build that network. So when I put out my dream job post, I had about 7,000 connections.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you really had woven a very large net for yourself.
Yes.
That's great.
I had read Scott Stratton's book on marketing, and he calls it, I don't know if it's social grip or social traction, but basically you develop these relationships and you make your network loyal enough that you can ask them for something. And so for me, I was at the point where I was like, okay, I've given enough value and knowledge that I can finally go in for the ask. And within the week of that article going viral, I went from 7,000 to 13,000 right off the bat.
Now, you talk about making yourself valuable to that network. In what ways did you make yourself valuable to that network before doing what you're doing now, which is, I mean, now, of course, your posts are very valuable because you're able to talk about what you've learned and you're a huge success now, so everyone wants to hear from you. But how did you offer value before, including maybe at a time when you didn't have the confidence to know what your value was?
Yeah. Well, I think confidence has to come first before anything else. You can never go into building an audience anywhere without believing in yourself first, because whatever you feel about yourself, you're going to project to everybody else. It's just the way it goes. And trust me, you do not want to have to deal with criticism from internet strangers when you are not in a good place.
Of course not.
But realistically, we all have incredible value. And I think that's really important. I talk to students all the time and they're like, well, I don't have any experience yet. I'm like, but you have this perspective of being a new graduate and talking about what that's like to people that don't understand. That's your value.
And you're part of the market that people are trying to market to regardless. Exactly. So even if you haven't been a marketer, you still have a mindset.
Yeah. So me, I knew that I had two things. I had knowledge because I had been in marketing for about 7 years, and I had time. I had lots of time. So I spent that time writing articles about marketing, social media, and really showcasing the knowledge that I had, and also spending time volunteering and kind of like doing stuff offline. And that's something that I continue to do to this day because I really need to serve others to really serve myself. And that's something that I learned at that point, is that the more that you give, the more that you get. And we kind of think that like our giving is like this limited resource, but it's actually the opposite. I wake up every single morning and I truly ask myself, what can I do to serve the audience that I have? And, you know, as you get busier, it gets harder to do, of course. Yeah. But I did things like last fall, I had this empty bookshelf. And I was like, okay, well, I've served the job seekers at this point, but how do I serve the people that are trying to launch their business or promote their products or services, or people that are trying to impress their bosses and all of those people? And so I had this empty bookshelf and I'm like, okay, I put it out onto LinkedIn. I'm like, send me your mug and I will post it to my network. And it'll kind of be like this like mug networking cutesy thing. Anyways.
I thought you just collected mugs. I didn't even realize it was promotion for them. I love that.
It's kind of become that. So I thought that I was going to get like maybe 5 or something like that. And I thought it'd be really fun to like open up one and figure out where like my followers are from, because you just see this number, right? But they're people. And I ended up getting about like 10 a day, to the point where I filled up 2 bookshelves, had 250, and I had to tell people to stop sending them. Even I actually recently went to Dubai for a week, came back, and I had 13 new mugs. And this is without me running the campaign. But you constantly have to look for things like that. You know, last year I did my public accountability challenge online because I want to lift other people up. Like, what is the purpose of being in this position now if I can't help other people? And I'm going to cry because now I'm thinking about the person that actually won that challenge. She is a single mom, and she's just the most beautiful human being that, like, right away I felt an instant connection to her, and spent the last year mentoring her.
Oh, I love that.
She had given up everything for her 2 daughters that are now in school. And her dream was to be an interior designer and move to New York City. And she's actually flying me out to New York City in January, because she ended up landing her dream job there, has this beautiful apartment in Upper East Side, and has really like watched all her dreams come true. So anytime I have an opportunity.
I want to meet her. I'm outside. I'm just outside New York City.
I know. We'll connect. We
should get coffee.
So anytime you can look for things like that, because really at the end of the day, the things that are going to drive you are the connections that you're making with people, and those relationships that are both online and offline. It's not going to be the numbers, because really at this point, I put out an update and it can reach between 500,000 to 1 million people. But what does that mean for me personally? Not very much. They're just numbers, right? They're cool, but that's not going to sustain you.
Yeah, it's quality, not quantity.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I try to do as much of that as possible. I sent out a box of books last spring to somebody I asked people to send me their stories and how they could use a little bit of help. And ended up getting so many that I spent day and night just going through these stories and try to respond to as many as possible.
Wow.
And basically filled up a box with books that had helped me get back on my feet.
What were some of those books?
So I actually, the day after I was laid off, I reached out to Scott Stratton and I told him, this is what happened. I feel like I'm at a crossroads.
Did you know him already or no?
I didn't. He was a stranger, and that's kind of where like my mission comes from, because I think that like we kind of say, they're strangers, so I don't need to care about them. But like for me, Scott actually responded to me. I didn't even expect a response, but not only that, he gave me the best advice I've ever gotten. And then 2 days later, a huge box of books showed up at my door, and it was filled with his own books, but also other marketing books. One of which helped me write my first viral article and really changed my entire life. So as many times, it was, I don't know if I have it here. It's Everybody Writes by Anne Hanley. And it's my like go-to guide when it comes to anything writing, because you can be a great writer and you can have the best intentions, but you really need to learn how to communicate with your audience. And that's the biggest thing. I tell people all the time that I try to cover everything that I do in strawberry jelly. Reason being that when I was younger, I wouldn't take pills. So my mom would put a pill in strawberry jelly and then spoon feed it to me. So we all walk around with these guards up, right? And we need to find ways to break through those guards to deliver whatever message or idea we're trying to give to people. And so I do that through relatability, humor, all these like classic storytelling techniques. So really trying to figure out what your strawberry jelly is the hard part. Everything else is pretty easy.
Oh, I love that. That's fantastic. And you said that Scott gave you the best advice you've ever gotten.
Yeah, I went from throwing myself a pity party and kind of grieving, I don't even know if it's a loss of the potential of a career. It's not even the career itself. And I think that it's a really important, if you do lose your job, to take the time to heal and figure out exactly what you want. Because so many of us kind of like, it's that instant fear of not being able to pay bills that we just need to jump into something else. And long term, that's just not a great strategy. And but I was feeling very sorry for myself, and he turned it around and he's like, I'm sorry that happened to you, but now you have this great opportunity to find a company that really deserves you. And that instantly just totally changed my perspective. And now it's at the point where people will reach out to me saying, I lost my job, and I tell them, I'm like, congratulations. Because it's like a great opportunity for you now to turn things around and figure out what you want to be doing. And so those are the people that, it's not those people that I feel sorry for. It's the ones that are stuck in a career where it's just sucking their soul and they're surviving.
They're afraid to leave.
Yeah, because I've been on both sides, and when you're in that, you don't know that there's any other way to live. Yeah, so
I love that, and it's very timely. It's funny that you're on this week because that happened to be one worked out for our schedules, but it's very timely for me because my husband got laid off a couple weeks ago. He worked for Oath, which is Verizon lumped AOL and Yahoo together into Oath. And, mergers and acquisitions come with layoffs. So if anyone out there needs a technical PM in New York, reach out. Greg Gritmon is fantastic and looking. So let's talk about what you do now. So, you put yourself out there. You got it going. You leveraged the network that you had already given so much to when you didn't need it, and they came through for you. So you wound up at grade A. So what exactly were you doing there that made it your dream job? And let's talk about how it progressed, because that to me is the most impressive part.
Yeah, of this whole thing. I think that coming out of school and the way that we've been taught things is like you do things that you like the work. And I think that's secondary, for me at least, to the company that you work for. So you need to find a company whose values align with your values. And so when I was looking for my dream job, and the reason that I chose grade A over other companies was because I went in and I instantly found a connection with the owners. I felt like I looked at them and right away I wanted to be like them. And that was something that I had never felt before. And I've learned over time to really appreciate that, because if you have an opportunity to be somewhere where you can be mentored or grow and learn, that really is a dream job.
Yeah.
But then over time, so I was their marketing manager. But what happened over time is that I started having people messaging me saying, I don't know what you're doing, but I want to pay you for what you're doing. So how do we make that happen? And unfortunately, I was in a position where it didn't align with what I was posting online. I was developing this strong personal brand, but then I was doing marketing management for an IT company. And so over time, you know, I can love my job all day long, but if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I want you to do a presentation for $10,000, can you do it? And you have to turn it down. Then it starts to get harder. So I had honest conversations with my bosses. We're very, very open and transparent about all that stuff. And they saw that there was an opportunity to serve that market. And so less than a year after I started, they came to me and asked if I wanted to partner, which was a dream come true, because it was combining my dream job, and I didn't want to leave that job, and that was a problem. But it wasn't necessarily my dream job. It was my dream bosses, right?
Yeah.
And now they're my dream business partners.
That's amazing. I love that. And I love that they were smart enough to realize that that you were at a crossroads, and that they had something really valuable in you, and that they could, you know, use that to bring value to their customers while also enriching your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's where I'm at right now. We've spent the last year-ish building up grade A digital. It's very interesting going from employee to entrepreneur.
Oh my gosh, sure.
What a roller coaster. There's a lot of emotions. I've learned over time, you know, the hardest part of being an entrepreneur actually is having nobody to tell you when to go home. That is a really hard part. Nobody even realizes, right? You work through your 9 to 5 as an employee, and then you go home. But like when you love what you do, the hard part is telling yourself it's time to go home.
And drawing those lines. I've compared starting a business to kind of like falling in love. Like you can't stop thinking about it, and it just like takes
100%.
up consumes you. It changes your plane of being. But at the same time, you gotta have your life.
Exactly. So I'm lucky that I'm able to balance that life with the life that I've created on LinkedIn now, and still be able to kind of express myself creatively through that platform. I have this weird compulsion to do campaigns on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people. So if I'm locked into a room and I'm doing product development on the grade A digital side, I will kind of balance it by trying to do a viral video campaign on LinkedIn. So just
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's creative ADD, really. In September, myself and a few of my friends, we started a video campaign on LinkedIn called #Let'sGetHonest. And that was focused on, again, kind of trying to take it a little bit further and get people to start talking about the challenges and the vulnerabilities that they've had to overcome in their career, and just kind of trying to break down that whole let's sit here and wear these itchy suits and pretend to be someone that we're not, and open ourselves up a little bit more so that we can connect on a richer level. And we didn't think anything would really happen from it. You know, these are just fun campaigns that I come up with. And that campaign ended up reaching over 26 million users on LinkedIn.
Wow.
And as cool as that number is, what's more important is that it tells me that people are ready to start treating other people that you're doing business with as actual humans. And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing, because I think that we've reached a point now, especially with platforms like LinkedIn, where we can't shut off. I can't just work my 9 to 5 and then go home and just forget about my job, forget about all that stuff. And the problem for a lot of people is that they're pretending to be somebody from 9 to 5. And then they have to continue pretending to be that person beyond that time. And so for me, the best way to kind of combine is combining those two, your professional and your personal, and trying to bring more personality into what you do and why you do what you do. At least for me.
Another interesting thing about that is that if you're honest about your vulnerabilities, they almost cease to be vulnerabilities, because you are not living in fear of that shoe dropping, of people, finding out or whatever. Yeah. I know that I went through a bout with anxiety and depression this summer, and it threatened to screw up my business. And so I was honest about it. And everything was fine. And of course, the people closest to me said, you might not want to do that. And I said, but I do though. I want to give this context. I need to give this context. And honestly, keeping it real is part of my personal brand as well. So, I have to. And it's interesting. It's a very new way of thinking that social media has brought about.
Yeah. I think that the two biggest hurdles when it comes to success, at least what I've found in my own life, are fear and shame. And even myself, we're talking about loving what you do, and how that can actually be something that's a challenge because you don't know when to turn off. And that's been a real big challenge for me. And I just posted on LinkedIn about how I had an anxiety attack about a week ago, after weeks and weeks of just kind of neglecting any sort of self-care and all of those things. And people asked how I kind of like get past anxiety and all of these things. And I it's just talking about it, being open about it. It's the quickest way to stop that shame. But there's so many people that are carrying around that weight. And I know, because they message me all the time. And they think that these are big, deep, dark secrets that nobody would be able to accept about them. And in my head, I'm like, if you just talked about it, you would be so much happier because you'll realize so quickly that everyone's like, okay, what else? What's for lunch? And
it's a very powerful position to take, to say, I am owning all parts of myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. So what exactly does Grade A Digital do then? They leverage the you-ness of you to create this. So how exactly does that work? What exactly do you do? And then we'll look at some questions.
So two things. We have the corporate side where we do social media management for local businesses. I love working with unsexy companies. I love when I get like an accounting firm. I'm like, yes, because I've been in marketing for such a long time that I love those challenges.
You have to think more creatively.
Absolutely. It's kind of like doing like a vegan meal when you're a big like meat eater. Anyways, so we do that. So we create all the content. We do full strategy reviews. I go in and do a training workshop with our clients. And then on the professional side, because we're realizing that there's a huge need for strong personal brands within companies themselves. And so a big focus for me has been developing those personal brands within the firms themselves. So we offer that too. So we offer a half-day workshop. Up until now, it's been open to just Grade A Digital clients because we want to perfect it and all of that good stuff, make sure that it's good to go. But it's become really popular, so we've opened it up to non-Grade A Digital clients, and I love doing it. I feel like such a sellout because my mom's a teacher, and I remember the day being like, I'm never going to be a teacher. I never want to do that. And the other day I'm doing this workshop and I'm showing somebody how to optimize their headline, and I'm like, oh gosh. Well, I guess it's when you hit 30 that you become your parents, right? Yes. But I love doing that. And then I also do presentations. And in February, I'm actually going to be speaking before Gary Vee at the Sony Center for Generation Now, which is so exciting.
Exciting.
Yeah. So doing a lot more of those like international speaking gigs and talking about personal branding and the little lessons that I've learned over the past 2 years.
I love that. I don't think we have any questions. I think we just have Robert saying that you're awesome, which is accurate. But thank you so very, very much for your time and for being so giving of yourself on LinkedIn. I mean, they say you reap what you sow, and you are sowing plenty. So that's wonderful.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It was so much
thank you.
fun.
Thanks. Bye.